You know that highly specific, slightly confusing moment when you wake up on a random Tuesday and your shoulder it just hurts.
Oh, completely. Like you slept wrong and now you're injured?
Right. You didn't fall down. You didn't like play a grueling game of tennis. You literally just slept.
It's the worst.
Or how about this one? You go out on a Friday, stay up until maybe 2 a.m., and suddenly you realize that recovering from that single late night is going to take you at least 3 business days.
Oh, yeah. It is a very specific, very universal wake-up call.
Welcome to TalkKast. It's funny because, we've all been there, and it always feels like an ambush.
It really does.
Yeah.
And if you're still in your 20s, a lot of this hasn't fully shown up yet. We actually
Right.
touched on that and what happens to your body at 20.
Yeah. But right around that third decade, the grace period it's absolutely over.
Oh, totally over.
And that kind of brings us to the core of what we're talking about today. We want to figure out exactly why our bodies feel so drastically different when we cross that threshold into our 30s.
Because there's this overarching narrative out there.
Exactly. The narrative that turning 30 is this sudden cliff where your biology betrays you, your metabolism dies, and your body just completely falls apart.
Right, the whole over-the-hill myth.
Yeah. But from everything we understand about human biology, turning 30 isn't a cliff at all. It's a mirror.
I love that. A mirror.
It is the exact age where your body simply stops hiding the consequences of your habits, your sleep, your baseline stress, your daily movement. The body basically stops covering for you and starts giving you very, very honest feedback.
Yeah, honest feedback is really the perfect way to phrase it. Because in your 20s, youth acts as this massive, invisible buffer.
Right. You could just bounce back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can run on fumes, you can eat terribly, you can completely ignore stress, and your cellular repair mechanisms are so robust that your body just absorbs the impact.
But at 30,
At 30, that buffer wears thin. So the changes you feel aren't really about a sudden, tragic decline, they are about accumulation.
okay, let's unpack this. Because the absolute first place my mind goes when I feel that accumulation, when I feel that, new heavy sluggishness, is to blame my biology.
Sure, that's what everyone does.
Right. We point the fingers squarely at our metabolism. We say, well, I turned 30, my metabolism crashed, there's absolutely nothing I can do. But you're saying the engine isn't actually broken.
Not at all. We love to blame metabolism because it absolves us of responsibility.
Obviously, it's an easy out.
But human metabolism does not magically crash when you blow out 30 candles. When you adjust for body size and composition, cellular energy expenditure is remarkably stable from around age 20 all the way to age 60.
Wait, all the way to 60?
Yes, that is a 40-year plateau of metabolic stability. Your cells are burning energy at virtually the exact same rate.
So if my metabolism is supposedly functioning exactly the same at 32 as it was at 22, why do I feel so much more tired? Like, why do my clothes fit differently?
Well, it's about context.
Let me try an analogy here. Blaming your metabolism at 30 is a bit like blaming your car's engine for suddenly slowing down, when in reality the engine is completely fine, but you've just started driving the car through thick, heavy mud.
That is an excellent way to frame it. And that mud is what we can basically call the sleep and stress tax.
The sleep and stress tax. I like
Think about what actually changes in your daily life around this age. It's not your cells, it's your environment. We move significantly less casually.
like just day-to-day movement.
Yeah, there is this concept called NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. It's all the calories you burn just living your life, not actively working out.
Like fidgeting or walking upstairs to your apartment.
Exactly. In your early 20s, your NEAT is usually incredibly high. You might walk across a university campus, pace around your apartment, stand at a concert for 4 hours, or play a random pickup game of basketball.
And then you hit 30.
Right. By 30, you are likely sitting in an ergonomic chair for 8 to 10 hours a day. And when you sit for that long, the biological signaling in your body actually changes.
Wait, really? Just from sitting?
Yeah, the enzymes that help break down fat in your bloodstream physically drop.
So the body is just adapting to the fact that I've become a completely sedentary office worker.
Yes. And add to that the fact that you have higher, more sustained psychological stress. When you are stressed about, say, a mortgage or a career trajectory, your body constantly pumps out cortisol.
Right, the stress hormone.
Exactly. Cortisol is an emergency hormone. It tells your body to halt long-term repair processes and hoard energy, usually as visceral fat. So you're stressed, you're sitting, and you end up prioritizing convenience over recovery because you were strapped for time.
I know exactly what you mean. You're ordering heavy takeout because you worked until 7 p.m., and then you're revenge bedtime procrastinating on your phone until midnight because it's the only free time you actually have.
Precisely. So you are carrying a low-grade chronic sleep and stress tax every single day.
Though what if I go to the gym? Does that cancel it out?
The structured exercise you might do, say, going to the gym for 45 minutes is fantastic. But biologically, 45 minutes of lifting weights does not entirely undo the physiological impact of sitting still for the other 15 waking hours bathed in stress hormones. Energy in your 30s is no longer a free, unlimited gift of youth. It is a direct mathematical reflection of how well your daily life is set up.
That makes a lot of sense, but let me push back a little here. If the metabolism is totally fine, what is physically shifting? Because clearly something feels fundamentally different in my body. The mud feels thicker when we try to recover from a hard workout or, a bad night's sleep.
You're right to push back. There are real, measurable physical shifts occurring. They just aren't the dramatic, flipped switches we imagine them to be.
So what's actually happening under the hood?
Let's look at the underlying mechanisms, starting with hormones. They change very gradually. For men, testosterone doesn't plummet off a cliff. It begins a roughly 1% yearly drop, often starting in the late 30s.
And why does that happen? Just naturally?
It's a combination of slight changes in the tests themselves and weaker signaling from the pituitary gland in the brain. It's a slow slope.
And for women?
For women, the 30s bring a narrowing reproductive timeline. It's not that fertility vanishes overnight, but the window becomes more defined as the ovarian reserve naturally decreases.
Right.
And importantly for women, the hormonal fluctuations of a normal cycle, like progesterone drops that cause PMS, can suddenly feel heavily exacerbated.
Exacerbated by what? Just getting older?
Exacerbated by that chronic stress we mentioned earlier. Cortisol shares a precursor molecule with progesterone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So when you are chronically stressed at 32, your body steals that precursor to make more cortisol to handle the stress, which leaves you with less progesterone.
I didn't know that.
The result: your PMS symptoms suddenly feel 10 times worse, and you blame your age when really your stress is hijacking your hormones.
Wow. Okay. So stress is literally stealing the raw materials our bodies need to keep us balanced. What about our physical structure, though? Our muscles and bones? Because I feel like I tweak my back just reaching for the remote these days.
Well, bone density and muscle mass generally hit their absolute biological peak somewhere between 30 and 35.
Okay, so we're at our peak.
Up until that point, your body is naturally tilted toward building tissue. The cells that build bone osteoblasts are highly active. But after 35, the cellular turnover rate shifts.
It shifts how?
The cells that break down old bone actually start outpacing the cells that build new bone.
Oh. So the rule changes. You no longer get that maintenance for free.
Exactly. You don't wake up weak on your 31st birthday,
Yeah.
but if you are completely sedentary, you begin a very slow, gradual decline. You have to actively introduce physical stress, like lifting weights, to signal to those osteoblasts that they need to stay active.
Got it. And let's be honest, the ultimate truth tellers of all this underlying cellular slowdown are your skin and your hair. This is the decade where the ghosts of your 20s come back to haunt you.
Oh, definitely.
The sun exposure from those beach trips without sunscreen, the smoking, the dehydration, it finally surfaces.
That's because of the exact same slowdown in cellular turnover. When you are 20, your skin cells replace themselves incredibly fast, which basically masks underlying UV damage.
And then it catches up to you.
Right. At 30, that turnover cycle lengthens. The old, damaged cells hang around longer. You might see the first gray hairs because the pigment-producing stem cells in your hair follicles naturally begin to exhaust themselves.
It's just a slowdown across the board.
Exactly. You see a loss of firmness because collagen production slows down.
They are the visible receipts of your past habits. But if I'm hearing you correctly, the single biggest physical shift, the thing that underlies almost all of this, isn't that we are fragile. It's that our recovery capacity has changed. Our margin for error has simply shrunk.
Yes, exactly that.
Wait, so you're saying I can still push just as hard at the gym at 32 as I did at 22? I just can't get away with eating junk and sleeping 4 hours afterward.
What's fascinating here is that your raw physical capability hasn't left you. You can absolutely still hit personal records in the gym.
Really?
You can run faster and be stronger than you were at 22. Professional endurance athletes often peak in their 30s. Age is not the dramatic limiting factor the lack of recovery is.
Because the body just takes longer to repair the micro tears in the muscle.
Exactly. When you combine those subtle biological shifts, like the very slow decline in hormones or that slowing cellular turnover, with chronic sleep deprivation, high stress, and maybe too much alcohol, you amplify the aging process by a factor of 10.
So it compounds.
You are creating a massive recovery deficit. You make yourself feel older than you actually are because you are depriving your body of the one thing it needs to repair itself, which is restorative downtime.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. And the scary part is that this slower physical recovery doesn't just stay isolated in our muscles or our skin, it bleeds upward.
It does.
It directly affects how our brains function, which leads us to this pervasive feeling of mental exhaustion that so many people hit in their early 30s.
Yes, the infamous brain fog. People hit 31 or 32, they start forgetting names, they lose their train of thought in meetings, and they immediately panic, thinking it's early onset cognitive decline.
But it's not.
No, I want to be very clear. It is almost never cognitive decline. It is mental friction.
Mental friction. I think people are going to relate to that deeply. Because look at the layers you were carrying at 30 compared to 20.
The layers are massive.
Your work responsibilities are heavier and have real, tangible consequences.
Yeah.
You aren't just an intern anymore. Your relationships are more complex. You might be navigating a marriage.
Or divorce.
Right. You are likely dealing with aging parents who need more help, or you have young children of your own who need constant attention and logistics. You have a mortgage or rent that eats half your paycheck.
You are carrying an immense cognitive load. In your 20s, there was space. At 30, there is very little empty time, very little spontaneity. You are constantly task switching.
Yeah, the constant switching is exhausting.
So that brain fog that feels like your brain is dying, it's usually just pure, unadulterated exhaustion. Your brain is entirely full.
Here's where it gets really interesting. You know, people always use that cliche that the 30-year-old brain is like a computer with 50 open browser tabs.
Right, I've heard that.
But I don't think that's quite right. It makes it sound like we are just scattered. Let me try a different analogy. Your brain at 30 isn't an old computer with too many tabs open. It is a highly capable, top-of-the-line smartphone that has a perfect battery, but it happens to be running a massive invisible operating system update in the background.
I like that. Expand on that a bit.
Well, when your phone is doing a massive OS update, it feels sluggish. The apps take a second longer to open. But it's not because the phone is broken. It's because it's indexing files and doing incredibly complex heavy lifting in the background to make the system better. That's what our brains are doing. We are indexing life. We are processing emotional weight.
That is a brilliant way to visualize the actual neurology of it, because there is a positive flip side to this mental friction that is incredible, but often completely ignored.
Which is?
When you actually look at cognitive development, your brain is literally physically changing in your 30s. The white matter in your brain, the myelin sheath that insulates your neural pathways, continues to thicken.
What does that actually do for us?
It makes communication between different parts of the brain faster and more integrated. This is why things like judgment, pattern recognition, emotional understanding, and complex decision-making actually improve during this phase of life.
Oh, that's reassuring.
Yeah. You are literally smarter, more emotionally regulated, and more capable of navigating nuance.
So we are trading the sort of raw, effortless processing speed of our 20s for actual depth, perspective, and practical intelligence.
Exactly. You trade the raw ease for depth. You are getting a much more sophisticated operating system. But, and this is a massive but, you can only access those incredible new strengths if you actively manage your mental overload.
Right, if you're not drowning in stress.
Exactly. If your brain is constantly drained by cortisol from stress and exhaustion, you will never get to use that heightened judgment and emotional intelligence.
Which perfectly sets up the dangers of this decade. Because we tend to misinterpret all of this mental friction, the slowing recovery, the sluggishness. We misinterpret it all as inevitable aging.
We do.
And because we diagnose the problem wrong, we react with terrible habits that actually accelerate the exact problem we're trying to fix.
We fall into traps. And there are 4 major traps you might find yourself falling into when you hit this stage and misinterpret the signals your body is sending.
I definitely want to dig into these because I've been guilty of at least 2. Let's start with trap number 1. Fatalism.
It's the worst.
Person who wakes up stiff, looks at the calendar, sees they are 31, and just surrenders. They assume physical decline is inevitable now, so they just stop trying. They move less, they complain more about their back, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It absolutely is a self-fulfilling prophecy, and there is a biological reason for it. When you stop moving because you think you're getting old, your fascia, the connective tissue around your muscles, literally begins to stiffen and bind together.
Really? Just from not moving?
Yeah, you lose range of motion not because of your age, but because of your lack of movement. By acting old, you literally signal your tissue to become old.
Wow. Okay, trap number 2 is the exact opposite. Denial.
We see this one a lot.
This is the person pretending absolutely nothing has changed. Maybe this is you. You're still trying to party until 3 a.m., you're eating fast food for lunch every day, and you're training like a 22-year-old college athlete with zero warm-up.
The zero warm-up is a killer.
And then you walk around constantly wondering why your joints are inflamed, why your digestion's a disaster, and why you're always on the verge of getting a cold.
Right. When you act like you are in denial, you are ignoring that shrinking margin of error for recovery. Training without a warm-up at 32 causes microtrauma to the tendons that takes much longer to heal. You end up in a state of chronic systemic inflammation.
Okay, then there's trap number 3, which I admit I have absolutely fallen into, chasing intensity.
Oh, this is a big one right now.
This is trying to fix the sluggishness with extreme measures. You feel slow, so you do a grueling crash diet. I remember feeling so exhausted one month, I signed up for a punishing high-intensity interval boot camp 6 days a week thinking it would wake me up. Instead, I practically destroyed my immune system.
I see this constantly. Let's look at why that happens. You were already exhausted. Your body was already swimming in cortisol from daily life stress.
Yeah, I was super stressed at work.
Right. When you add a 6-day-a-week high-intensity workout, you aren't waking your body up. You are just pouring more cortisol onto the fire. You are taking a hammer to a nervous system that actually just desperately needs a steady, predictable rhythm of recovery.
It's just so counterproductive.
Yeah.
And finally, trap number 4, normalizing symptoms.
This is a dangerous one.
This is waving away things that actually require real medical attention. Persistent, bone-deep fatigue. Severe disruptive changes to your menstrual cycle, massive hair loss, a total loss of libido. People wave these away saying, oh, I'm just getting older.
Yeah, that's not normal aging.
No, those are not normal parts of turning 30. They require attention and sometimes a professional checkup to look at your thyroid or your vitamin levels. Are we actively making ourselves feel older by trying to biohack our way out of these symptoms instead of just listening to them?
This raises an important question about how we view wellness today. The fitness and wellness industry loves to sell us complex, expensive solutions for what are essentially basic lifestyle deficits. Taking a dozen obscure supplements, buying expensive light therapy gadgets, it distracts from the basic.
Exactly. Those early signs, waking up tired, relying on 3 cups of coffee just to feel functional, feeling stiff after sitting for an hour, your skin looking dull when work gets crazy. Those are polite warnings.
Exactly.
Your body is politely tapping you on the shoulder saying, hey, this routine, it's unsustainable. It is not a disease of aging. It is a request for stability.
Which brings us to the actual fix. If extreme intensity is a trap and biohacking your way out of sleep deprivation is a trap, the actual solution is surprisingly, almost frustratingly simple. But it requires the one thing we all struggle with: consistency.
The fix is ordinary discipline, not perfection, just basic things done with boring, predictable consistency. And the ultimate first lever you have to pull is sleep.
The foundational lever.
I know. Everyone says get more sleep. But you literally cannot out-supplement a bad sleep schedule.
You really can't. Let's explain why sleep is the foundation. It's not just about resting your eyes. During deep sleep, your brain shrinks slightly, and the glymphatic system literally flushes cerebrospinal fluid through your brain tissue, washing away the metabolic waste products that build up during the day.
That sounds amazing.
That is how you clear the brain fog. Furthermore, deep sleep is when your body releases the vast majority of its human growth hormone, which is what actually repairs your muscles and skin.
But let me push back. As someone with a busy life,
Yeah.
what if getting 8 unbroken hours is a joke to me? What if I have a toddler who wakes up at 3 a.m. or a job that requires early shifts?
That is the reality for millions of people. And if you cannot control the quantity of your sleep, you have to ruthlessly protect the quality and architecture of it.
How do you do that?
That means absolutely no screens an hour before bed, keeping the room freezing cold, and cutting alcohol. Alcohol sedates you, but it completely destroys your REM and deep sleep architecture. Consistency over perfection. Protect the hours you do have.
Okay, next is strength training and movement. We mentioned that muscle and bone peak in your early 30s. Because those osteoblasts and muscle fibers no longer maintain themselves for free, resistance training at least twice a week transitions from being a nice to have to being absolutely non-optional if you want to be functional later in life.
Absolutely. The mechanical tension of lifting heavy things is the only way to signal your bones to stay dense.
And beyond the gym, daily incidental movement is vital too.
Oh, huge. Literally just standing up from your desk, walking around the block, taking the stairs. You have to combat the chair to keep that neat metabolism high.
Then there's nutrition. It's just from extreme yo-yo dieting to steady maintenance. Prioritizing protein so your muscles actually have the building blocks to recover, getting enough fiber to keep your gut microbiome healthy, and staying hydrated.
Yes, steadiness over extremes.
And there are specific needs that pop up too. It's widely recommended to consider a daily vitamin D supplement during the autumn and winter months for bone health.
That's right. Vitamin D is actually a hormone, and it is essential for calcium absorption. Without it, your bones can't utilize the calcium you eat no matter how much milk you drink.
Good to know. And we cannot ignore stress management and skincare. Setting actual boundaries with your work so your cortisol levels can drop in the evening. Getting outside in the morning to see real daylight to regulate your circadian rhythm.
The morning daylight is a game changer.
And when it comes to skin, a basic routine with daily sun protection and absolutely not smoking will do infinitely more to protect your cellular turnover than a jar of $300 Miracle Cream.
Every single time.
So what does this all mean? When you look at the sleep hygiene, lifting weights twice a week, basic protein-forward nutrition, and sun protection, it means the secret to thriving in your 30s isn't punishment.
Not at all.
It isn't finding the perfect, flawless biohacking routine. It is just ordinary discipline.
Exactly. The human body at 30 responds beautifully to consistency. It doesn't need to be punished into submission with extreme diets or massive stress. It just needs you to establish a stable, reliable baseline so it knows it has the biological resources to repair itself.
Yeah, just give it what it needs.
It really is a profound shift in mindset. Ultimately, 30 isn't the start of a decline, it is the end of denial. It is a massive, incredible advantage because you are finally catching the signals early enough to change direction.
That's a very empowering way to look at it.
The habits you lock in right now, building strength, protecting your sleep architecture, managing your stress to keep cortisol down, they compound over time. You are basically pouring the concrete for the foundation of the rest of your life.
And this is usually where things start to shift more noticeably. It becomes even clearer as you move into your 40s in what happens to your body at 40. The body you inhabit at 40 is quite literally built by the cellular decisions you make at 30.
Which leaves us with a really fascinating thing to think about. If we are struggling with this physical shift at 30, largely because our incidental movement dropped when we entered the office, what is going to happen to the current iPad generation?
Oh, wow.
Right. What happens when a generation whose incidental movement dropped to near zero at age 8 hits this biological threshold? That is going to be an entirely new frontier of human health to navigate.
That is a wild and honestly slightly terrifying thought to mull over. But for you, right now, the takeaway is clear. 30 isn't the age to panic. It is simply the age to pay attention.
Very well said. The body responds.
The body doesn't just arbitrarily age in a vacuum. It responds. It responds to how you treat it. And maybe that means tomorrow morning when you wake up, that random unexplained shoulder ache isn't a life sentence. It isn't the grim reaper of aging knocking at your door. It's just your body politely asking for a quick stretch, a glass of water, and maybe a slightly earlier bedtime tonight. Thanks for listening to TalkKast.